Hey, happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Titan Talk. I'm Isiah, Kilgoon with me as usual, and we're here just chilling, chatting about Smite 2. It's going to be a lighter show today because it is patch day.
Yes.
OB10 launched this morning. Apollo is live on the battleground, along with a few new items as well.
Yeah, and you're lucky that I'm here today because I almost completely lost track of time. That's why we're a couple of seconds late getting started today. I just had to grab my drink before we sat down. So.
It's not a Titan Talk without an Alani,
I know.
I'm sure chat will give you leeway for, being 5 seconds late to the show.
Do you see how beautifully I have the label position?
I know, right?
It's almost like if they sponsored us, they would get value out of it.
It would be perfect.
They wouldn't because they already get the promotion, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a lighter show today, right? Because we did just have a patch that went live. So far, the patch is looking pretty good. A few kind of minor issues.
Yeah,
but I would say
a couple off the top of my head, known issues wise that we're aware of and looking into. So we're aware of account boosters. There's an issue with gamepad players not being able to purchase them on the screen. Like they'll press to hold, it'll go, but it won't complete the purchase. So we're looking into that. That way, gamepad players can get those account boosts and those bonus rewards after the end of the match. And then the only other thing, I know there was a comment around some of the visual effects for the Mystic Guardian Athena, maybe not matching Smite 1 parity. I think she's got some wings in her ultimate and maybe one of her other abilities that aren't in Smite 2, but I just saw a thread in our QA channel where our effects team and QA teams were looking into that. So
cool.
Outside of that, I don't think there are really anything else that's super big that hasn't been fixed already. So.
Yeah, there was an issue with the wheelish. I don't know if that got fixed, but
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so it is possible to get stuck on your cat if you activate Eye of the Storm or Aunt Chile.
That's interesting.
While you're on your cat. If you activate them before you cat, then you will not be stuck on the cat. It's kind of a weird edge thing because most people don't really build those items on her and don't try and use them while on the cat. So that was the only other bigger bug that I saw today.
Yeah.
But we're keeping our eyes out as always. Please do send along any bug reports that you see, and we'll get to work on fixing things.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to be hanging out for the next hour or so, answering questions. If you've got bug reports and just want to drop them in chat here, I've got a notepad up.
There are a few questions here, which I should we probably should have made this clear earlier. I can't figure out how to buy the Athena Prism bundle.
Okay.
So when you go to buy any of the individual prisms, then it will pop up a screen that says, do you want to buy one for 600 or do you want to buy the bundle for 1200?
Okay. Yeah.
So there is no separate place to go. You just go as though you're going to buy one, and then it will pop up with the window to say, do you want to buy that or do you want to get the bundle
that
instead?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So because we still don't have a way of showing bundles in our
the
UI.
store.
Yeah, it just doesn't. We just don't have that part of the tech built out yet, and we thought this would be clear enough. Yeah. So.
Sweet. Well, chat, have you been able to hop in and try OB10 yet? Curious to hear your feedback if you have. If you've got any bug reports that you want to pass along, feel free to do so. I've got my handy-dandy notepad with me on the desktop to jot those down, or if you just have questions and want to talk about Smite 2.
Two people asking the same question already, so I will answer this.
Let's go for it,
why Sobek Market is only diamonds? So we went back and forth on... We're still trying to figure out how to price things in Smite 2. You would think that because we have so long pricing things in Smite 1 that we would understand how to price things in this game, but we don't really. We're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
And from our perspective, this Wandering Market is kind of like a Prism bundle. And Prism bundles are normally, or Prisms in general, are normally diamond exclusive, right? So we went back and forth about well, if we were to price this like the last Traveler, then it would have been 2,400 diamonds, but you could pay 50-50.
Yeah.
So it would be 1,200.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, what if we just price this just for diamonds, but for less diamonds than you would have spent on the last Traveler?
Correct. Yeah.
And so it has the 3 prisms in it, and then there's some extra.
There's a badge and
jump stamp. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you also get the classic skin included free for purchasing. Yeah. So, basically, we're just not charging you the legacy gems for that skin, which we would have been doing if we priced it at the price including the cost of that skin.
Correct,
if that makes sense. So, the thought was that this was actually a potentially a better, cheaper way to offer it because it wouldn't also require you to use up some of your legacy gems. If it had been 50-50, it wouldn't have been priced at 1,000 because we would have had to take into account the value of the classic skin and the value of the jump stamp and the what would we say, badge? There you go. Where like 3 prisms by themselves are more than 1,000 diamonds normally. So so it's 1,000 diamonds to get the wandering market or the traveler market for the land shark, and the prism bundle for Athena is 1,200.
Yeah.
So kind of 2 different price points that are a little bit different. Again, we figured maybe a little bit cheaper for the Sobek one because you also do have to put your wandering market coins and your points in your time into it that way. So again, we're still kind of figuring out the pricing that makes the most sense, but that's how we came to that pricing decision.
And then one thing I will call out with the Landshark Traveler that I saw some questions about, just like the Buzzing Springtime Traveler and the classic Jingwei skin, Landshark Sobek will be available for 100% legacy gems after the Traveler has ended. Correct?
Yeah, so I think like 6 weeks or so from now, you'll be able to get it for legacy gems. Yeah. So we weren't trying to permagate it. It just we didn't want people to get into the weird state where like you had spent legacy gems to unlock this thing before you realized that you could get it in the wandering market, and then that's a less good purchase for you to make because you already own part of it. So primarily trying to address those kinds of issues when we do this. It's less that we want to hold it back and be exclusive to getting it a certain way, and more just not wanting people to get into a weird purchasing state where you own part of something and it feels bad to then spend money to get the rest of it.
Correct. Sweet. Let's get right into Q&A here.
Yeah.
Let's see what I got in chat. Hey, Isiah, here's a bug. Geb Aspect is proccing item effects wildly incorrectly, like Gladiator Shield and other on-hit effects. I am taking a note for us to look into Geb Aspect item procs.
There appears to be a red dot on someone's profile that isn't going away.
Taking a note.
Yeah, the red dots are pesky.
Red dot is back. Is that on the profile page? Is that what you said? Yeah,
that's what you said, profile.
Gotcha.
Why wasn't the Athena skin in the classic skin chest? We goofed, and it should be now, I believe.
Yes.
So just for a few hours this morning, we forgot to add it to the chest vendor. Like basically we have like a back-end setup thing, and in converting and copying stuff over from one environment to another, it got missed, and it was a mistake.
Yeah.
So it should be there now.
Yeah. And if it's not, maybe just a relog, and that should fix it for you.
Yep. How come Contagion is using Void Tomorrow's icon instead of its Smite 1 icon? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just maybe it's a design decision.
Are we using the Contagion?
No, we're not. I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they just felt like it was a better icon. I don't know. It's a good question. Can we see a Neith nerf soon? She is so overpowered. I have no idea if she is or isn't overpowered. I will say we look at a lot of different sources to figure out how we should be nerfing things. The hardest thing about a game like Smite is there's such skill disparity between different like levels of players that things that can be super OP broken at certain skill levels can be really bad at other skill levels, and vice versa, right? So like, some gods are just like I'm my brain is dying today. I did not sleep much last night. But like, I remember like one of the old like League of Legends examples was like Amumu is like pub stomp Bronzodia god, right? And it's like, but as soon as you get to a decent skill level, people know how to play against him, and he's not very good. Yeah. I don't think we have characters that are quite that extreme where it's like they stop being good once you reach a certain point, but they definitely stop being as good. And there's some that aren't good until you get to a certain skill level. Yeah. So it's possible that, Neith is just good and needs to be nerfed, but we tend to look at a lot of different things, including like, win rate, number of kills, amount of damage dealt, across different skill levels. We also look at just like subjective feedback where like what gods are being banned the most in ranked, right? Like perceived as being good. We look at just the general community chatter on things, right? And there's just a lot of factors that go into what we choose to buff or nerf. And, maybe Neath is one that needs attention. I can't comment exactly on that, but yeah.
Saw a question. When is the next full Wandering Market? I believe next update, OB11.
Yeah, and I think we're going to try and have Ben on.
Yeah, I still need to hit him up. So if he's watching the show, he probably got a surprise. Yeah. But we're thinking about trying to get Ben on to maybe talk about, we flash tested Scylla and Ganesh, maybe talk about, the process that went into their model updates into UE5 and Smite 2, and maybe also spoil or show off some of the next Wandering Market skins.
Yeah, so we try and put out a Wandering Market, and this is always subject to change, right? But we try and put out a new regular Wandering Market every 8 weeks. Yeah. So every 4 updates. And the price on those is $1,300 for the first period of release, and you can do 50% legacy gems on it. So, it costs you $5 if you have legacy gems. It's a crazy deal. But what we found is that some players are getting to the point where they just we're sitting on a stockpile of Wandering Market coins. And we thought that it might be interesting to kind of keep the market a little bit fresh between these bigger stores that take us a lot of work to put together. With these, not exactly everybody is going to buy them, but they're fun. And if it speaks to you, you might pick it up. Traveler markets. And so far, we don't have any data on today because our data is kind of like a day lagged. So we won't know how this one did. But I'll say the last one did pretty well considering Yamoja and Jingwei are not popular characters. They're pretty unpopular, I would say. And the bee theme has been historically, sometimes it's stung, sometimes it hasn't. I don't know. It's been hit or miss. But that did probably better than it would have done as a new chest, which is probably the other way that we would have sold that. So I think generally we feel like it was a good experiment, and we'll keep experimenting with it and see if people keep liking them.
With the recent change in the calendar, can we say that there are no longer many plans for all new gods in Smite 2 from now on?
I would say that. Yeah, I would say that we still have, and all this is subject to change, right? We have an all new god that isn't the H god that we're still planning to launch, later this year for sure. I don't want to give. I could be more precise than that, but I don't want to be because I'm just and then the H god would be some point after that, right? Which could be late this year or maybe early next year, kind of very roughly speaking, right? And it kind of comes down to, again, just what's the best thing for us to be working on right now, and until we get the game to a certain state, then the added marketing benefit of doing an all new god is lower than just getting more gods out that current fans love and maybe sitting on the sidelines for, right? And I think that we've also proven that we're able to do some interesting things with the +1s and the aspects to where support Apollo, which you'll be able to play on Friday with the aspect, really just feels like a whole different god. Right? And I think that we're able to add a lot of new god gameplay feels to the game with these systems. When and the main purpose for new gods is more marketing wise, I would say, than we need it for gameplay variety, because we're getting so much gameplay variety with aspects and everything. So we're gonna keep working on new gods. It's just for right now we felt like the better thing for a little bit at least was to focus on some more of these classic gods, and maybe next year we'll go harder on new gods. Maybe it's hard to say, but we just try and listen to the community and see what we think is best at that point in time, and not commit to any one path for too long, because at Hi-Res the only constant is change, as I have said many times. I think I've had 5 desks in the last year,
something like that.
We just move all the time. We reconfigure all the time. It's the way that we work.
Rank borders. This is a good call out. So they did not launch with the patch, We are still working on getting them out. We actually sit right next to. It's crazy. It's funny because he is in between where Kilgoon and I sit.
Yes.
He was actively working on getting those out this morning. So I'm not sure if they're going to be out today, but we are still in the process of rolling those out for people that are eligible.
Yep, and we had said on Friday's Titan Talk that they may come out a day or two after the update, just because there's some nuts and bolts of how we do it. And this is going to sound like a dumb reason to not do it, but we think it's important. One of the things that is a bit of a holdup is we want to make sure that when you get it, you get a message saying you got this thing.
Yeah.
Because if we just give it to you and it's in your inventory and we don't tell you that you got it, nobody's going to go looking for it. Or else they'll be like, oh, why did I get this thing, right?
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that like we send out a message to you when you got it, which is part of the difficulty. POV change for console players zoom in. So there was no change to the level of zoom on console or the FOV, but there is a new default console HUD that we would love to get more feedback on, how it's feeling. The goal for this is to be more like a traditional action multiplayer game HUD, kind of like Smite 1 console HUD originally was, with the big health bar at the bottom, your abilities off in one corner, your actives and relics off in the other corner, and like bigger teams across the top. I personally like it a lot, but we are open to feedback on things that feel better or worse. If you don't like it, you can pretty easily go back to the old HUD. We didn't erase the old HUD. We just changed what the default was. So if you go into, I believe it's UI, and then at the bottom of the UI tab in settings, I think it says HUD layout. And then if you change that to centered, then click save. And then you open up the HUD editor.
Few steps, yeah.
Open up the HUD editor after that and click reset and save. Then it'll go back to the centered HUD. So once again, you go UI, HUD layout, centered.
Open the HUD editor.
Open the HUD editor. Click reset. Click save. It'll change it to the layout that you have been playing with. But we feel like this layout is probably more console friendly because it makes your health bar so much bigger. It's just easier to like read that in the heat of combat. It also the ability icons are also bigger. So again, it's easier to read when you're sitting on your couch. And just a lot of I think it feels better. But again, would love more feedback on how people are feeling about it if you have played with it. Does it auto put every console player on that HUD? I hope not. If you have edited your HUD previously, it does not change your HUD to this. If you've never edited your HUD, then it does change you to this. I believe that the inclusion of Brazilian mythology would be very beneficial due to the large Brazilian community of the game, which would be easily rekindled with a representation. So we definitely have heard the community's request for Brazilian gods. I've mentioned it many times in the show. I've got this huge spreadsheet or slideshow of all the different god ideas that we could potentially do. And we've added a lot of Brazilian gods to that over the past year from some of the community ideas that we thought were interesting. Now, is the next god going to be Brazilian? No, they're not, right? Yeah. It takes us a little bit of time to plan out a new god. And as we talked about earlier, we're doing fewer new gods right now because we're focusing on bringing over some more classic gods that we think we're missing. But we definitely are considering Brazilian gods, and we also have a lot of respect for the Brazilian Smite community. Been a core part of the Smite community for a long time, and I don't speak Portuguese, but we definitely read everything that you put out there that we can.
Somebody says if they win the lottery, they would spend it all to see the slideshow.
Yeah, that would be the biggest waste of lottery money in the history. Maybe if you won like $100 scratcher or something, like do that. But like any more than that, you are wasting your money.
That's funny. What's our vision for time-limited skins / cosmetics? Will things come back annually to new players to purchase after the event, i.e. unlimited / returning events?
Yeah, so in general, we want to do as little like time-limited stuff as we possibly can. Now, there's always going to be like this thing's on sale right now, so you're going to get a better deal if you buy it right now, right? Or there's a bundle that's a limited time bundle, and you can get a better deal on it with this bundle or something, right? Like that kind of stuff we're generally okay with. The thing that we don't like is if a thing goes away and you can't buy it forever, right? We don't think that that's good for the game. We don't think it's good for players. And over the years in Smite 1, we moved more and more away from that, where, I think for battle passes, we were at like 6 months to a year after the battle pass was done. We'd start recycling that content into chests or available for direct purchase or, other ways of getting it. So for Smite 2, I think you should expect something similar where it's like maybe, for these travelers, I think are a good example, right? We are not 100% sure how we want to handle the travelers going forward, right? Where we could either make it so the traveler itself goes away and then at some point in the future it comes back and then you can buy the thing again. Or we could make it where the things will be dispersed into other ways to purchase after the initial run of the traveler. I think either could work. The problem is we can't do both because then you get into the situation we talked about earlier where I own part of this thing, but not all of it. And then then it feels bad to buy the rest of it. So we just kind of have to go one way or the other, and we aren't 100% set yet because we don't have to make that decision right now. we have other things to think about right now. And the first traveler is still going to be running for another month or so, right? So you have you have a little bit of time to finish up your buzzing bee.
The buzzing bee. Got a couple weeks left in that.
Will Hi-Res have a store for people to buy merchandise created from the artisan program, or will we have to find the artist store ourselves? So there's two separate programs. There's the artisan program was to get people who are interested in making in-game content. So like skins, badges, jump stamps, whatever, right? Things that we would sell in-game. And we're still finalizing that, but I think the general concept for that is that like we'll do a drop of content created by artisans at some point in time. They'll probably all be in the same chest that they'll like share revenue on, and then probably also be available direct purchase if you don't want to, if you're one of those people that doesn't prefer to roll the chest. There's also a merchandise program. What's that called? It's just
the community merch license program. Yeah,
sure.
I don't know why it's so long, but that's what it's called.
And for that, it's just like if you want to make merch using Smite IP stuff, shoot us an email. Isiah will probably be the person that answers your email, and you'll get approved to do this, and you can sell some shirts or hats or whatever you want to make.
Stickers,
It's and we do not have like a central repository of everybody that is like a licensed merch vendor. We could consider putting up like a blog post or something, I guess, but currently we don't really have too much plans to promote that. But if somebody did sign up and they put the effort of putting up a store, we might like tweet about it or something. We might just do a little bit to promote it, but it's less like here's the official Smite merch store. Here, go find all these other people's shops, because we also don't want to be like if we give a community merch license to somebody and then they scam you, right? It's not that we have scammed you. It's that this other person has scammed you. And the more we like legitimize that stuff, the more that people like then come after us and say, I never got my shirt that I ordered from this person. And it's like, I don't, the whole point of this was we don't want to think about merch too much. We want to let you guys, if you want to make merch, you can make merch and it's fun. But it just can add a lot. So, somebody wants to see the new HUD. I don't think we have the game installed today, do we?
No, I can pull it up. I have to update.
A lot of today. Early Alani checks today. We can,
I know, right?
We can quickly.
We're both on the cherry twist, so it's easy. Yeah.
Do I know when purchasing diamonds on Epic will be fixed? I am not sure. I think that there's it's only a handful of people that are in a weird state around that, right?
Yeah. I did ping the crew last week whenever we got that got that comment. I'll follow up with them and see if they were able to dig into it and find anything.
Chat says Dev Rage uninstalled Smite. No, we just didn't update it.
No, we didn't. We had an update today, chat. Sorry.
The person who was asking about Epic, I will say the other thing that you could do is you can go to Nexus.
It's true, yeah.
So we have a store. It's nexus.gg/Smite. Maybe, something like that.
Smite store.
But yeah, if you Google like Nexus Smite, it'll probably come up. Yeah. And you can buy like codes that you can then redeem in game for diamonds. And you can also go to creators, like a bunch of content creators for Smite have their own like Nexus stores. And if you go to like, I don't know if Bobby has one, but I just saw him in chat. So if you go to Inbound's Nexus store, then he would get a percentage of what you spend. So it's just another way of buying gems to support the community, or buying diamonds to support the community, excuse me, not going through Epic or Steam or Microsoft or Sony. Thanks for the link. Nexus.gg/Smite-store.
There you go.
My grass is still missing on Xbox, not stealth grass. So the ground is just flat and spoils the new graphics vibe. So I dug into this the other week because I couldn't figure out what people were saying. And then I saw it and then I was like, oh, I understand what you're saying. So Xbox in particular has been running into some issues with crashing. And the thought was that perhaps it might be slightly tied to the grass. So they turned off the grass as part of a test to see if does this help improve the crash rate that we're seeing. This update had a lot of other things that were supposed to further help with that. And it's possible that given that, we'll be able to turn the grass back on in a future update. But it was an intentional change by the programmers to try and save some memory in a particular area that may help with this crash issue. So fingers crossed, it'll be back soon.
All right, I have the game up, and we can show off that a quick look at the centered HUD, or not the centered HUD, the split HUD.
Split HUD, yeah. So it's a split HUD. So as you can see, your health and mana bar are in the middle. You got your abilities down on the lower left side.
Abilities lower right.
Right. Sorry, I'm looking at the screen.
Mirrored,
I'm like, am I mirrored? And then you got your relics and your consumables on the other side. And then
on the sidebar.
Your active items do appear next to your relic, just like on the normal HUD. So if you buy an active, you can see that.
I'll buy a starter here.
Yeah,
that way people can
see that.
And then let's find, I don't know. I wouldn't do this in a regular game, but
yeah, so you can see it appears there. So it's pretty straightforward. It's not too fancy, but I think it's a little bit maybe easier to read from your couch, and also I like it when I'm playing on PC too. So. I think it just depends on how your brain works. If you like having the icons with the cooldowns in the very middle of the screen, or if you prefer to have like the health bars in the middle of the screen. So,
all right, bring us back to cams.
Hey Kilgoon, a lot of my friends keep getting confused with the new silence effect, thinking they have died because of the graying screen. I could see that.
Yeah, I believe that was toned down as well in this patch.
Okay.
So I don't think it's actually gray anymore. So if you get some games in today after today's update and get silenced, give us some feedback. But yeah, I think Pon did get that feedback as well, and he went in and kind of dialed that back a little bit.
Yeah, I think that like we felt like silence in our internal playtest, we were feeling like silence was just this super powerful effect that you couldn't tell when it was happening to you, especially with items like Unchile, Ancile, however you say it, that provide unexpected sources of silence, right? So I think that the idea of doing something to help silence read better is good. I can agree with what you're saying that maybe it was a little too intense. I'm not able to purchase account booster on PS5. Yep, that is a known issue that we're looking into fixing. If you're on Gamepad, you cannot buy account boosters right now. Oh, that is a good bug. In OB9, Game Pass members were given Medusa and her Summer Fun skin as a perk. As of the update, both appear to have been locked again.
That's not good.
So probably because that was something we turned on in the middle of the update, we didn't copy over the config for it. So that is an awesome shout out. Really appreciate it. I'm going to say your name, Mheps. I don't exactly know, but thank you for that shout out. We will get that fixed hopefully later today because that should be an easy config change on our side. How are classic skins chosen each patch? And when is Candy Shop Achilles coming? So it's a lot of things that go into picking what classic skins we do. I would say, in part, it's what the most, what are popular skins for the character. It also is what, is there something that the community is really saying that's the one that they want, and then the other thing is does the skin have unique tech that's tied to it, and do we have time to do that tech in that update? So I don't know for sure about Candy Shop Achilles if it has any unique tech.
It's got to be,
but it does. Yes, I was gonna say it does because he has that dancing thing. So that would be a reason why we might not do that as the first classic skin. Some of the classic skins that we've done so far do have VXGs, but again, it's just because that fit into the schedule to be able to do that classic skin with that VXG. Yeah. So we try and balance everything.
I believe we released the Zeus and Neith skins in the same update, and both of them had the music VXG. So it was a kind of 2-for-1 there.
That was a lot of work. Will we be doing more PTSs with gods that aren't coming out soon, like how we did with Ganesha and Scylla? Maybe is the best answer I can give you right now. We like getting things in your hands to test as soon as we feel comfortable with them being testable. But I can't say confidently that when Scylla's next, right?
Yes.
Yeah. When Scylla comes out, that
I had to double check my.
I was like, wait, is it Ganesha or Scylla? Because we went back and forth on it a couple times. But when Scylla comes out, we'll probably have Ganesha on in PTS to test during that period. But will we have the god after Ganesha? It depends on if they're in a state that we think that you guys could play it and give good feedback. Yeah. Because sometimes
and that's not to say you all don't give good feedback.
No. It's just sometimes they're not far enough along to where if you aren't if you're not kind of familiar with the flow of development, it can be hard to understand what state something is in and how to judge it and what feedback you should be giving right now, right? So hopefully we'll do more of this, but it just depends on kind of case by case basis what's ready when we get to PTS, because our goal is always ship the content that needs to ship and get as far ahead on the other stuff as we can, and it's how far ahead on the other stuff can we get.
I know the card arts look amazing, but navigating the gods menu needs a lot of scrolling. Are there plans to implement a layout only showing the portraits like in Smite 1? We talked about this, I believe, when Emma was on, and I think she does have that feedback. The UI team, when Emma was on, you got a little bit of a sneak peek into their workflow, but they have a lot of stuff on their backlog, and I'm pretty sure that this is on the list.
Yeah, it's on the list. I think it's pretty far down the list, to be fair, which I know probably not the greatest news if this is a feature that you want immediately, but right now we're really trying to focus a lot on things that affect your first impression and core feels of Smite 2. And if obviously scrolling through the god menu is something that new players do, but I don't think that your first time scrolling through the god menu you're like, oh my god, this is an awful experience. Where it's more just when you're trying to navigate it a lot and you're like, I want to go down and look at this Ascension Pass for Vulcan, and I got to go all the way down to the V's. That can be more annoying. Yeah. So definitely something that we will take a look at eventually, but just not at the top of our priority list right now. back in Smite 1, we had mid-season patches that had big additions and hype surrounding the patch. Can we expect mid-season patches in Smite 2?
It's a good question.
It's a good question. I would say even just like this recent like item rebalancing we've been doing is probably as bigger than most mid-season patches were in Smite 1. And I think that just like the game changes so much week to week right now that so calling something a mid-season patch is going to be like probably less impactful than it was previously, right? That said, we have been talking about like making bigger moments around certain things and trying to create more like come back and play type moments, because the thing is we're just doing so much so quickly that it can be hard for people to keep up with it or be excited about it. It's like when we had a new god every 2 weeks, it's like, oh, another new god. Okay. Like I just got one of those, right? Where when things are a little more spread out, I think people appreciate it more, but at the same time we have to move quickly with the gods. So we're not saying that we're slowing down, just kind of the issue that we're dealing with now. So I think we are thinking about what we can be doing in that mid-season kind of time frame that is a bigger moment for people to want to come back and play. But it's definitely a little bit different than the old mid-season patch days.
Yeah. Let's see. Do we have the data to make the played in these roles in quotation marks section in the god details as the first alphas? So the suggestions are dynamic by the player base and not static. For example, right now, the most role suggestions are not considering aspects. So I'm guessing this is if I go into the match lobby and I click a role, all the gods in that. And I think this is something that we specify internally for what gods show up underneath what roles. But
yeah, we did update that somewhat recently. I'm not going to say it was super duper recently, but somewhat recently. I think the difficulty that we have found with putting aspect gods in there is that new players especially don't understand that this is this character with an aspect that's good in this role. So like we were having a lot of complaints about like players throwing matches by picking Cupid support but not going aspect as an example. So I'm not even sure if he's still listed as a support, even though he definitely can work as a support at decent levels of play once you know what you're doing. So I'm not 100% sure where design ended up on that, but that was kind of some of the issues that we were facing. Is like when aspects enable a new play style, how do you make that clear to people that like this person is a support if you pick their aspect?
Yeah. It's definitely a good thought exercise for us to continue thinking about internally, though.
Yep. Will previously released skins also get prisms like Court Charmer Aphrodite? I don't know about that skin in particular. We are talking about going back and doing some prisms for older skins. Most of our focus is definitely on doing them for newer skins, just because it's more straightforward to do it as part of the pipeline of bringing the skin over in the first place than going back to a skin and adding prisms. But there are some skins that we're talking about going back and adding some prisms for. I'm not sure if Court Charmer is one of them, but yeah.
With the focus right now being to implement older, easier gods, is there going to be a point in the future where we're going to have to slow down significantly to release the harder, newer gods?
It's always hard to predict the future, but I would say the hope is that we will not have to, because we are building out this toolkit that will allow us to have all the pieces to be able to more easily implement the harder gods when we get to them. Yeah. That's not to say that we're guaranteed to be on the current pace forever or anything, but I think that the way that we are structuring things, we should be able to keep going for a good period of time. And I'll say also, we're not just picking the easy gods at this point. We definitely, to get to 50, there was a push of easier gods, but then pretty much after we got to 50, we've been doing gods that are more challenging again in certain ways, right? Like Scylla was one of the gods that was on our more challenging list.
She's got a lot of rigging.
Yeah, particularly for tech art and rigging, she's a very challenging god. Ganesh, I think, is actually a relatively easy god all around, but we do have to do new tech for his passive, bestowing kills and whatnot. So it's not like if we were just making the easiest gods, there are several other gods that we would be doing before some of the ones that we have already done and are doing. We're just trying to balance, things. Aladdin has to be the most difficult Smite god ever, right? Probably right up there. I think maybe King Arthur might still be, but definitely right up there. He probably
King Arthur. He gets name dropped almost every episode, but Crew's working on him.
Kali's aspect has difficult to see autos. Can we get more visual and audio feedback for the autos? I know this was something Travis was complaining about the other day.
I'm taking a note too.
I think it was specifically he feels like the color. He thinks the problem is that the color of the projectile is too close to the color of the ground, so you lose it in the ground. But yeah,
I will say if you've got the cross-gen skin, I believe those autos are like bright pink, so they stand out really well. Spoilers for Wandering Market, please, before you show it next Monday. Like I said earlier, we'll probably have Ben on at some point this week to talk about it, and we'll definitely probably show off at least one of the Wandering Market skins. I will say Amaterasu is not in the next Wandering Market. Yeah. I know we got a lot of feedback for her being in the first two. So
actually, it's oops, all Amaterasu Wandering Market. Excuse me. Can we get a Chibi Wandering Market? I love the Chibi skins.
Chibi skins are great.
It's sometimes they did really well. Unfortunately, the Chibi Mecha skins did not sell well. I love those skins, but nobody bought those, unfortunately.
They were so good. It's like little SD Gundams.
I loved it. I loved it. I really was arguing for that, and it didn't do very well. So, can't always get it right. Sylvanas soon, right, Mr. Kilgoon? I can't comment on future gods past Scylla and Ganesha, but we definitely have a lot of gods that we want to get through that hopefully everybody will be excited about.
Hey, Isiah, do you know when the renders for the community drive will be updated? The last updated gods renders were before Merlin. So I was actually thinking about this. I was talking with another content creator right now. Unfortunately, I don't think we have anyone with the skill set to do those renders right now, but it's on my list to maybe talk to Ben to see if we can figure out a way to continue to do those because, I think they dropped off right after the first 50, 52 or something like that. So.
Is Cucullin a technical challenge? I would say yes. He does have a decent amount of unique tech to him, and he's a 2-model god. Anytime you have 2 models, it's just double the work on that front. And then he's got the custom kind of rage meter thing, which we could probably, I guess Bari's tech
I was going to say we could probably take
similar.
some stuff that we learned from Bari to,
But I don't think any of his actual abilities are that confusingly complicated to do because he just has like a leap and a stab and a vent anger and a roar, it's not too much. So I think mostly it would be 2 models plus the rage mechanic plus
2 animation subsets.
2 animation sets. Like all that stuff is what makes it harder to do. Also historically not a very popular god. Successful in high level play. So one of those gods that has a perception of being more popular than they are, I would say.
Let's see. Bug. Aladdin's 1 has been broken for a few patches. Sometimes you cannot recall it despite having passive stacks, and there doesn't seem to be any rule to trigger the bug. It happens on both God and PvE combat. I'm taking a note.
Yeah. Who's the most popular god in Smite 2? That's a good question. I haven't looked in a while.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I would guess it's Nuwa, if I had to guess. But I might be wrong. I'd have to take a look. When I say something sold well, does that mean that a lot of people spent diamonds on it, or that a lot of people bought diamonds to buy the skin? Normally, I mean a lot of people spent diamonds on it. It's usually the two things are pretty correlated, right? But sometimes people have more in their inventory, and it's just different. But yeah, we tend to look at things more on like a what are you spending your diamonds on versus how many new diamonds did we sell that day? Because I think it's just a better way of looking at the economy. Everybody's trying to get little nuggets out about the new god before H. I'm not going to share anything yet.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think that the things that I've seen so far internally are looking cool.
Yeah.
That's as much as I'll share. Some of these are funny, but I'm not going to read them.
Can we get some new aspect spoilers? I don't have any spoilers.
Yeah.
I know they're super sick. At least the one, because I think we did confirm that Scylla and Ganesh both have aspects in the works. The Scylla aspect that I've seen concepts of is pretty darn sick.
That's cool. I don't think I've even seen it, so I will trust you.
No spoilers, but it's cool. I've seen a couple people ask any news or updates on our like friends list / social experience.
Yeah,
I know that's been on our list to take a look at for a while.
Yeah, we've been continuing to like tick off bit by bit every update. I think actually the last update or two there weren't too many updates to it, but it should be a little bit better than it was. If you have specific things that are not good about the current experience, it would help to share so we can figure out kind of what we need to prioritize next about the experience. But we're trying to make it better, but it's still definitely not ideal. But it should be much, much better than it was like a month ago.
Yeah. Man, chat is moving today.
Is fast, yeah.
Sheesh.
If Nuwa is the most popular, who's the least popular god in Smite 2? I want to say Yamoja might be the least popular right now. Something like that.
Could we consider adding an option in settings to make toggleable active items, i.e. Sunbeam Bow, Eye of the Storm, only active while the button is held down?
I saw this mentioned the other day, and I want to say that design was like, that's interesting. We could take a look at it, but...
It's like the FPS, like hold the crouch or like...
Yeah, tap to crouch, yeah. I mean, it's theoretical, but it's definitely something that they have talked about.
Yeah.
We haven't had many aspects turning characters into a better jungler or mid lane. Can we expect that to change in the future? That's good feedback.
Yeah.
And something we can mention to the design team that maybe we could think about more aspects that'll push people into that direction. Yeah. Recently, some aspects have become more popular or viable than their base forms. For example, Agni and Poseidon. What do you think of that? We think it's okay. The idea is just that there are multiple ways to play a god. Ideally, both of them are viable. But, frequently you're going to see one is more preferred to the other. And we're okay if the one that's more preferred is the aspect one. I think the only issue is when one is like,
you're trolling if you don't go that way.
And I think that's the issue. So I would say like the Agni one in particular is much more of like a high level play thing. And at lower levels, the aspect does not do well at all. So that's one of those like difficulties of balancing. Poseidon just was good at pushing objectives more than anything else and was able to win by doing that. But I think that like regular Poseidon still has a role. Regular Agni still has a role. It's just they when a certain one can be overtuned at certain skill levels, then that can lead to that kind of situation. Herc aspect useless. It actually had one of the highest win rates for an aspect. I haven't checked the numbers in a little while, but it was surprisingly good when people picked it. But it wasn't picked very often, so it was small sample size. We've been getting a lot of like novels about Mulan recently. So
we've talked about Mulan a lot. We had Clumsy on. We're open to a Mulan buff, all right, chat. Yeah. We're just looking for the right way to do it. Just because I know Clumsy is a proponent of Mulan is actually doing pretty well. So we don't want to go too hard with a buff and like make her super OP, but we are aware of the feedback that Mulan could maybe use some buffs, especially when it comes to community feedback and perception. So it's on the design team's list, y'all.
Are we still planning to release one god of every role at the time? I think you mean basically like rotating through the roles, so we aren't just like, here's 3 hunters in a row or 3 carries in a row or whatever it is. Yeah, we are still planning to like rotate through the roles. We might not always go the same 5 in order, but the idea is that like you shouldn't have to wait super duper long for the next god in your role. I will say also like the addition of aspects has changed that to some extent, where it's like we're getting aspect Apollo, which is kind of a support, and then you're going to get Ganesh in 2 updates. So sometimes we do double up a little bit in that way. Let's see.
You noted Kali having hard to see auto attacks in her aspect, but Bari has the same problem. I'm taking a note right next to Kali to look at Bari as well.
When does Atraxa return to Smite? Sadly,
I wish. Yeah.
Sadly, our licensing deal was only for Smite 1, so pretty much all of our crossover skins will remain in Smite 1. But at some point in the future, ideally, we'll bring some new ones over to Smite 2. For Ganesh, is there going to be a unique animation or sound that plays when he destroys a wall? I don't know. Yeah. I would imagine probably a sound, but I would imagine not a different animation would be my guess. But this is just me theorizing. Do not hold us to that, because I don't really know what the plan is there. Have you tried poppy soda? It only has 1 gram of sugar.
I've never tried it.
I've never tried that. Isn't it also like stuff for your gut?
It's like probiotic.
Probiotic. Yeah. There you go. I was thinking antioxidant, and I was like, that's not the word. It's something else. Well, I'll have you know that this has 0 grams of sugar.
Ooh.
So, another typical Alani win. Apparently, we have a typo in our patch notes about the bod builder.
Oh, I was supposed to fix that.
Sorry. Athena bundle doesn't look like it works. Gone for a relog and it's not functioning. That's odd.
Let me take a note.
We can take a look. I think it looked like it was working this morning when we were looking at it, but we'll take another look. Any progress on adding the sprout icon? This is one of the systems that I still really like, but it's not the top of the priority stack, right? So it may be something that ends up coming. It may be something that ends up not. I think there is still some debate internally about whether it's as good of an idea as I think it is. So I might have to convince some more people that it's...
For the chatters who aren't clued in, basically... We're brainstorming in a way to indicate that you're a new player. That way you could, if you're playing as a veteran, you see, oh, this is a new player. How can I help them?
Yeah. Be nice. I'm new, kind of thing. Kilgoon, when are you joining the gym? I, at one point in my life, was a gym goer. Now I just work and hang out with my family. So I don't have a lot of time for that anymore. I played college sports. I was in decent shape, but I am no longer.
I see the note in chat about Divine Ruin maybe procking more times than it should. I am taking a note.
Bench my kids. That's funny. Can we see Mega Buff kill? I was never that buff, but I was definitely in better shape than I am now, for sure. Dang, which sport? I played rugby in college, which is not like, top tier sport, but still, it was a college sport. Let's see. People have been asking about specific cutesy badges. I don't exactly know how we picked the first wave of cutesy stuff, but if there are specific ones that people want, we can always go back and do another wave of additional cutesy badges.
Yeah, I will say a lot of the cutesy badges were fan art badges.
Yeah.
And we did not port those over specifically because we haven't had time to look at the agreements for those that were implemented, and then we have to go back and find the contact info for everybody that participated in those fan art programs as well. So if you're looking for a cutesy avatar that was a fan art made badge or avatar in Smite 1, I'm not going to say it will never come over, but it's probably going to take a little bit of time for us to track down all that stuff before we can get them over to Smite 2.
Yep. Someone was asking if this is pizza or watermelon on my shirt. This is a watermelon shirt. There was also a question, which was a more actual, real question. That was, where was it? I just lost it. It was a good one. I can't find my good question. Oh, no. And there was a question about, this isn't the question I was looking for, but this is a good question. Are there any plans for independent people / hobbyists to be able to obtain API keys? I'm still learning to write software, but I would love to be able to create user-friendly tools to analyze data points of their choice.
We've been trying to get this done for a long time.
We have been back and forth about it, trying to find the best way to make this available to the community in a way that will not expose our servers to getting crashed by people hitting it too much, essentially. And the way that our current database is set up, it's a little bit challenging to do. We've been going through some API structure, or like some database structure changes to better store match data. And that's mostly done at this point, I think. So I think once we're done with that, then the hope is that we can make the API available to some people. Probably initially it'll be people that were Smite 1 API users. And we have like a small group of people that will probably be in the initial trial group. But if that goes well, then theoretically we'll expand it to more people. So not the immediate API access we were hoping for, but
it's been on our list for a long time.
List.
Kilgoon, I swear I see him ping somebody every couple of days.
Dude, I try not to be annoying about it because I'm like these guys have a lot of stuff to work on, but just every once in a while you got to be like,
what about this? Yeah.
Maybe? So it's definitely something we're thinking about. Oh, when do we see the game being out of beta phase? This is the question I was going to answer.
Gotcha.
Is it when all gods are ported over? Is it when items or gods feel balanced? I would say it's neither of those things. I don't expect that we will have all gods ported over when we exit beta, and I don't think that like the game feeling balanced is the trigger point for leaving beta. It's definitely a goal, right? It's something we're working towards, but even if we get the balance amazing, that doesn't mean that we're ready to leave beta. I think the biggest thing for us for leaving beta is that your experience, especially as a new player playing the game, has to be really good. Yeah. And when you log in and you play the game for the first time and it doesn't say beta on the tag, you feel like this is a good game, right? I think that right now you log in, you play the game for the first time, you see that it says beta, and hopefully you excuse a few things that aren't quite good enough, because they aren't, right? We're still working on it. So I think that like that's the area that we still need to really work, is making that initial like core experience better. And then once we get that into a place that we're happy with, then we will maybe drop the beta tag. Once Rank Joust is added, we can leave beta. You people. No, we've had this discussion before.
Yeah.
I think it's like We don't want to split the player base. There really weren't that many people that played Ranked Joust in Smite 1.
Yeah.
I think that like some kind of a hybrid queue is probably the best angle for Ranked Joust. I think the thing that's more likely to come first is Ranked Duel, like officially making it a ranked queue, because that's something that people expect Duel to be, and it kind of already is. It just doesn't have the leaderboard.
Yeah.
So. I spent 20K on my question, please. So maybe I shouldn't say this. We don't actually see when people boost their messages. We just see like a chat feed that is filtering that. So if you're spending your channel points on boosting your messages, it will not help your question get chosen. I will scroll back up to your question though, because I don't. I didn't read it. Let's see. Calaman said, Thanatos execute issues. In Smite 1, when enemies are low, we hear a loud dink sound like a ping, a heartbeat, and execute mark. In Smite 2, the heartbeat is very quiet. There is no dink, and the execute mark has line of sight. That's good feedback.
Yeah.
And we will pass that along to the dev team, and maybe we can make some changes there.
I have got all those notes. Sweet. Well, we're at 2 p.m., so it's time for one more question. And we'll wrap it up and then get back to it. I got to get a game in. OB10.
Yeah, I haven't
played some Apollo.
I played our dev test today, but I've not played live. So maybe I'll keep working on my secret project.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I feel like you've got a lot of secret projects,
Dude, I don't know. I have to do stuff to keep myself like valuable around here, I guess. If I'm just the guy who like, sits on Titan Talk and tells people what to do, that's not really a very useful job. So I just have a lot of like little secret like things that I work on.
Little personal initiatives.
Yeah. And
cool.
most of them don't pan out, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes you just have to run some experiments.
Yeah.
Project Sylvanas. No, it's not Sylvanas. Let's see. This is an interesting one. Could you please update the end of match details so that lifesteal is included under self-healing? We've had this debate internally, and I think the feeling is just like, it's kind of split as to whether that is the correct thing to do or the not correct thing to do, because it is very not the way we've done things historically, right? Like we didn't split out self-healing in Smite 1, I don't think, but we I think you only showed healing others, but like there was no lifesteal there. And like, should lifesteal count as healing for that? We probably wouldn't add another category for it. I don't know. People have had just like strong feelings about this, but it's definitely something we've talked about and something that maybe we will do at one point. I think it would help make things clearer for certain gods, like seeing how much Anubis has sustained and made me cry. I think would be nice.
All right, I have to choose a question. Let's see. Let me find a good one.
I almost spilled my drink.
Yeah, I know. Let's see here. Here we go. I lost it. There we go. Will we ever consider a more casual rank or score for casual game modes? That way you can see at a glance how you're being match made with other players for those who don't main ranked Conquest. So we have these just kind of in the background already.
Yeah. So in the background, like we are tracking your matchmaking rating, your ELO, whatever you want to call it, but like a number that indicates your perceived skill at a game mode. So you are hopefully being match made with people of roughly similar skill level. And as long as you're not playing at low population times or in unpopular regions, or you're super high or super low, most of the time the matchmaker does a pretty good job of finding you a reasonable match, I would say. The thing that we don't have is this kind of visible, like,
how
here
good
is my
am
status,
I? Yeah.
right? And I am a big proponent of this. I think that this is a good thing to have. But we have gotten strong feedback from some people who are like, I will stop playing this game if casuals have any kind of a score associated with them, because I just want to have fun and not worry about my score. And I can understand that. I think that there's a lot of ways to approach it so that maybe it doesn't have that feel. Like I think it was Halo had like an only up skill thing, where it's like you start at 1 and you went up to 50, but you couldn't go down by losing kind of thing, and it reset every once in a while. But I like it personally. I think that it gives you something to play for. I think that it points out that this is kind of a competitive game, and you're probably not going to stick around playing forever if you don't want to play some form of competition. I will say that like there can be a certain level of ranked anxiety, which I understand. But I think part of that is because this is my theory, is that it's because it's a separate queue, it feels more daunting and there's more anxiety around it. Whereas like if it was just, I'm just playing the mode and then eventually the mode becomes ranked, I think I would feel more like I'm good enough, I deserve to play ranked, I don't have anxiety about it. This is just the same game I've always been playing, except now I'm playing a different, like a more challenging version of it. But maybe I'm being naive, and it is actually a really bad thing psychologically. So I think that there's a lot of interesting things that we can do with that. It's not our top priority. It's probably not even like top 10 priorities right now, because we just have so much we need to do.
For sure.
But I think that that's one of the things that could make a big difference if we decide to do it. So.
Sweet. Well, Kilgoon, thanks for hopping on the show and joining me on this Monday chat. Thanks so much for hanging out. Hope everyone is enjoying the Open Beta 10 update. If you haven't already, hop onto the Battleground, try it Apollo, and all the new cool stuff that's in Open Beta 10.
Yeah. You want to play a game after this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Sweet. All right, chat. Thanks so much for hanging out. We will see you on Wednesday at 1 p.m. for our next edition of Titan Talk. But until then, have a great rest of your day. Peace.